real quick, double check the steering wheel.
Gentlemen, start your engine.
Nice and smooth. Get it all done all day long. Got a good feeling about today, guys.
Donnie Kite's gonna get through it all and score his first career win in the Saturday Night Racing League Cup Series. What a finish!
Too little, too late from behind, and Sebastian Marin, your first repeat top split winner of the qualifying series.
He knew it was just a matter of time when Hunter Sr. is victorious.
Josh Adams taking the win at Iowa. Juicy Spider Motorsports takes home the 1-2-3 finish.
Today, the Simu Nation LMGT3 Masters, powered by NOX Gaming and brought to you by Wolf Sim Racing. Take a journey to France. It's the final race of the season and a chance for glory here at Le Mans. I'm Justin Prince alongside Skorbanshi. Mike Noss unavailable this evening as Simu Nation is proud to bring you tonight's action powered by NOX Gaming. Simu Nation, always a part of enjoyable action, but NOX Gaming always a place where you can shop for all major sim racing brands under one roof. NOX Gaming also offers PC building services throughout Canada. This series also brought to you by Wolf Sim Racing, which builds the high-end gear that makes the difference. Precision engineered dashboards and mods designed for ultimate performance. Don't just play the game, live it. Getting set to go for tonight, it's our championship finale. The title itself already secure, but these drivers getting set for the biggest challenge yet. The French countryside, you call it on some sims. On this sim, you can't say Le Mans. And these drivers getting ready for Circuit de la Sarthe.
Looking over at the championship standings, Xavier Chamberlain has secured it with the 4 wins already. Christopher Larson close, but no cigar in P2, but it's still up for grabs between himself and Max Mazeneuve. Pierre-Etin Laporte will not be here tonight, so P4, well, hopefully that's still secured for him despite his absence. Jonathan Disselmore in 5th, Stephanie De La Fontaine in 6th, Steve Ward in 7th, Philip Mazeneuve in 8th, Olivier Legrand in 9th, and Patrick Herger round out the top 10.
It's been an interesting championship so far for the campaign, but for Xavier has been that dominant when it comes to the efforts tonight. He just so happens to be the person drove our upcoming track guide. Brought to you by Wolf Sim Racing. As we get ready for the French countryside, it's a long one. Sigur, talk us through this track.
This is a grueling 8.467 mile lap, or for those of you using kilometers, 13.626 kilometers. The first 24 hours of Le Mans run in 1923 on an approximately 17-kilometer circuit. It's absolute test of time and has lasted all of its challenges. It survived both of the wars as well. Despite taking a break, we've raced here at Le Mans for over a century. And as you can see, coming out of Tête Rouge, why it is such a challenge. It is absolutely demanding on the tires, absolutely demanding on the driver physicality-wise, and there's only a few moments where you get to take a break and check your mirrors. In multi-class madness, do you really get times to take a break or check your mirrors for safety? Not too often in these types of races, but here with the LMGT3 Masters, they're able to negotiate with net back markers and master classes very, very well. Coming through the first chicane will allow you some reprieve from the track, but now it's a long punch down to the second chicane. Again, time to check your mirrors, time to get to grips, but you want to stay to one side of the track or the other. There's a crest in the middle that you don't really want to ride too much, so you'll see drivers staying to one side or the other, and then you're going to chuck it in to the second chicane as fast and furiously as possible. The Muslim Straight added 2 chicanes in 1990. After the FIA ruled the straight should be limited to 2 kilometers long. History has changed this track, but still, it's one of the most defining sites in motorsports. Now coming down into Virage de Mousson, this will be the final leg of the back stretch of this amazing Circuit de la Sarthe. Now we go down to Corbin de Golf, the long stretch before we get down to the famous Essa de Indianapolis, a famously known corner for its partnership with the United States Motorsports Association. Headed into the slight kick, it's a fast right-hander before we get down to Indy left. It'll be a fast, fully left-hander that'll challenge drivers before we get to the slowest part of the track. This is going to be Arnage. You plummet onto the brakes, hit the hairpin nice and tight, and then it'll be the hairpin corner before we get down to the famous Virage Porsche. The Porsche curves, where drivers are going to be testing the limits of what they can do mechanically and physically. Constantly switching from left, right, left, over and over again from Porsche to Point, the karting, Corvette, and then Michelin. And you can see how much it challenges the car as Xavier Chamberlain tries to keep the car on track with just using the throttle pedal to manage the traction beneath them with even a little bit of a wiggle coming out of the exit of Virage de Corvette. Now, down to the 4 chicane. This is where the lap is either made or broken. Attacking the curves as much as possible, cutting it as close as you possibly can without getting track limits and avoiding the sausages. And that is going to be an epic lap around the Circuit de la Sarthe, or as we know and love it, Le Mans, brought to you by Wolf Sim Racing.
An interesting track and a lot of history, as you noted. These competitors, in turn, will be tested tonight over the course of an hour and 15 minutes. Remember, these drivers going to have to figure out just the right way to attack here, because it's a very big track that will absolutely burn you energy-wise.
And not just talking about the virtual energy either, right? We're talking about the actual energy that the drivers will expend. They're going to get burnt out as well.
Absolutely. And remember, it's going to be interesting how the strategy plays out over those 75 minutes here today. There was some talking into the weekend and the week itself on is there going to be weather. Race admins have assured drivers tonight's expected to stay non-rainy, as in dry conditions for your championship finale. And at the moment, the drivers are in the midst of the qualifying session here as they try and build laps. Keep in mind, it's such a big racetrack in general here, Sigur, because this facility, you're talking about 3+ minutes a lap right now just to be able to get a lap time down. Vast majority of the field yet to put a lap on the board with 11 minutes, 30 seconds to go.
Well, with those 11 minutes and 30 seconds, we're going to definitely see the groups of packs start to come through. We see the front runners, the drivers that really were excited for this qualifying session to get out there quick, fast, in a hurry and get these 4-minute laps in, these banker laps, if you would. And it's desperation to get these banker laps in as quickly as you possibly can. And then the next laps that you're really worried about are warming the tires and conditioning them for a flyer. Because it's such a long lap, you really need that A, banker. B, you need to get the tires warmed up, and then you can start flying, as we see someone going off in the background. Obviously, they didn't warm their tires.
And it's going to be interesting as drivers develop here, where they finish things out over the course of this season. Larson, right now the first driver, as you said, at the top of the board. Plenty of competitors yet to hit the racetrack. Have plus upwards of 22 cars at least on circuit at the moment. Now, obviously we know championship ramification sign, things solidified. We talked about that point coming in already. After all, the Porsche of the 93 yet to secure a lap on the board. But there's still a good opportunity trying to at least get some wins on the board. And remember, in this series, plenty of prizes when it comes to what's at stake, including the trophies for if you're amongst those top competitors in the standings. A lot to talk about in that complex of things here, Zagor, as these drivers will get themselves to the point where they lock themselves in for a lot of your prize pool over the course of the season, whether it's for the NOX Gaming gift card prizes for the top 3, whether it's the virtual trophies being turned into real trophies from Wolf Sim Racing, or whether it's those t-shirts that some of the drivers get to be in as a part of those who race 6 races.
Well, you know, I gotta ask Justin, I'm gonna be a little bit selfish because I've been behind the screen as well for all of these races. Where's my participation prize? You know, I could use a NOX Gaming t-shirt. I think it's one of those things that I absolutely love about some of these championships that are coming out now. I'm not the best driver. I'm never going to win those 1, 2, 3 prizes, Justin. Unfortunately, that's just the reality of it. Unless I enter a beginner racing league or something like that. A little bit of sandbagging would be required for me to take the win, as De La Fontaine has an incident coming down the Mulsanne straight by the looks of it. Oh no, this is coming out of Arnage. Yellow flags flying out for that sector. But the participation prizes are things that I can absolutely get behind, and I see more and more leagues doing that. And I think it's such a great idea to increase the people that are going to be in this league when it comes down to the checkered flag. And I think it's more incentive for drivers who maybe know that they're not going to be in that 1, 2, 3 category to also participate to the bitter end of the championship. As Christopher Larson takes a wonderful spin coming through, I believe this will be the Ford chicane, and that's pit road on the right-hand side.
Now, what's causing all these issues all of a sudden where drivers are just losing traction here in the midst of this qualifying session? Keep in mind, in the case of Larson, I don't think there's enough time to really get another lap unless you get maybe one with colder tires.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Justin. It's going to be one flyer with very, very, very cold tires. It's going to take the entirety of this lap or 2 laps to really get the tires up to temperature. We know in Le Mans Ultimate, it takes about 3 laps around a normal circuit for the tires to get up to temp, as Dave Pittman clatters with the wall in the number 18. Beautiful livery, by the way, from the number 18. Love to see them coming out. And the 220 having a mistake at Dunlop. That's going to be Jared Bergen redacted. And what is it that's happening to these tires? Well, at this point, Jared had been out there for quite some time. So his tires had probably come up to temperature, but he's probably pushing a little bit harder than he'd like to. And now Andre Moro having an incident as well. So what's going on is I think the drivers are perhaps getting a little bit overconfident with what they have beneath them right now as we get halfway through the qualifying session, Justin.
Yeah, coming up to 6 minutes to go in the next moments or so. It is treacherous all of a sudden for some of those that have been trying to push their cars here. Alex Bacon amongst those who have done well in the qualifying session, by the way. At the very least, one of their more higher up starting positions. Simone's still on the board in 6th. Revell was in the top 5 in the Lexus. Grande in the top 4 with Herger, Masoner, Max's car, specifically there behind Larson. Interestingly enough here, a lot of your top teams are yet to even put anything up on the board either. And we know, in some of the circumstances, as Verden moves up in the MRT to 2nd spot, some of the drivers were concerned about the manufacturer balance coming into today. For example, you have Beneke, who mentioned before today, he was not enjoying the Mercedes AMG coming into today.
But now, a wrench being thrown into that with a Lexus taking away P2. Cyril Fortin has done an amazing job driving that number 99 Lexus since that switch over. It's been amazing to see the different manufacturers come out through the ranks, looking at JP Revell as well, driving that number 202 Lexus into the top 5 continuously. It's been looking really good. We have 5 different manufacturers in the top 5 right now. So is there a manufacturer balance of performance issue? We'll let the timing tower do the explanation, shouldn't we, Justin?
Especially with some of the drivers yet to even put anything up on the board. I think there is a strong chance we see Chamberlain go from last to first if they do indeed start here. Because again, nothing doing. As you can see, that 93 is just in the garage. And it depends on some people's philosophies. Some people like to put in the challenge. I wouldn't be surprised if we see this for the 93 already with the champion in hand. Have some fun, see how far you can get to the field.
And especially at a track like the Circuit de la Sarthe, it's kind of a no-brainer. If you were able to do it at any track, it was going to be here. I mean, from historic origins, the Circuit de la Sarthe has been known for its multi-class racing, for its endurance racing. Overtaking opportunities are definitely going to be present for the drivers. So really, it's just going to be an easy walk in the park for Xavier Chamberlain should he decide to show up and show out tonight. But like you said, the championship already in the bag. Does he need to race tonight? Only if he wants to for fun at this point.
Indeed here, and now with that being said, as they all cycle about here late, under 3.5 minutes to go, keep an eye on that Mercedes AMG. We were just talking about that balance in terms of performance. Noticed some issues in terms of the speed markers here for them over the course of the season. Already has indicated a change to the Porsche potentially for next season. So already, this is coming in too. Drivers are thinking about by the time we get to about the summer or in the fall time when we're expecting things to kick off for the next run, give or take. Some drivers are already looking ahead to see what car they should run the next time out instead.
It will definitely be interesting to come back in the fall to see what LMU brings to the table. We already know that this game is not yet fully finished, that we are still in a developmental stage of this simulator, so we're gonna see some significant changes come out throughout this year. We have a lot of big promises for 2026 as well. New cars, new tracks, new season. What does that mean for us as customers? Well, a whole bunch of new content being released. So when we come back in the fall, potentially, it's going to mean a lot of new tracks. It's going to mean a lot more different combos and potentially a multi-class battle here with LMU GT3 Masters no longer, and maybe some multi-class Masters.
Would be an interesting concept, absolutely, as everyone continues to put on the spin cycle, as you can see in the background of all this discussion, by the way. The wild thing to me is this game has felt like it's been around for years, especially with the predecessors like R-Factor 2, in terms of some of the bones from the same development wings, like Motorsport Games. But then you look at the actual wiki, and technically it only has been officially out for less than a year. That's how wild that time period has gone with how much the Sim's already built up an impact for some competitors. That being said here, Max Metzenerv has fallen down to 4th, Herger in 3rd. So with the shuffle, the 116 might be in a decent spot to try and pick up. Last time by, though, see that first sector did not look great. If anything, I don't know if there's going to be enough time for anything else to be put up here other than a run to the pit lane after this lap with less than a minute up on the board for the Aston Martin.
Well, Max will be able to get to the line at the very least, but if the session will officially tick over by the time he concludes this nearly 4-minute lap will be the question. Gets to the line, 3:58.835 will be the benchmark to beat. And that last lap, not besting that by a long shot. So, final attempt for Max Metzenerv to try to get onto the front row of the grid for this race start at the namesake of the simulator for which we know and love. And like you said, it's only been around for a year, but it's been gaining a lot of traction throughout the branding community or throughout the Instagrammer or influencer community. You'll see names like George Boothby, Foch, now running Le Mans Ultimate as well, providing to the realism or to the, oh my goodness, what's the word, Justin, that I'm looking for?
Realism?
Thank you. Providing to the realism of the simulator. And I think a lot more endurance events will be released throughout 2026 for the simulator, Justin. And I think that's going to be the real test of where LMU lies on the ladder as far as simulators are concerned. Is can it provide exactly what it's designed to do, which is online, multi-class, multiplayer racing?
That's the thing absolutely here as we go about. But the qualifying session, we'll see checker flags start to wave for our competitors, with Larson putting up another flyer, 3:57.341. That is more than a second quicker than anybody else. Herger on their last time by also took away second by a few tenths of a second. As you can see, Metzenerv still pushing hard to try and figure out if there's a way to gain another couple tenths at least. Get on the outside front row at minimum. If not, try and find that pole. There is no draft to work off, though. See those track map bubbles in your right-hand side of the screen? You have 10, looks like already going to come down pit road. Max Metzenerv, I think, is the last car outside of maybe Beneke who will go for it here. Here is your weather forecast right now at the moment. As you can see, partly cloudy is the current forecast the next couple minutes. Then it's supposed to go to light clouds at one point during the race. It will be clear skies much of the way, but look at the wind speeds, about 25 kilometers an hour. Going to be pretty gusty out there on the circuit to the east.
And I wonder if that's going to play a factor in the drivers coming down the Mulsanne straight, really, because it is such a long straight. Coming in from the east will mean never enter Santa's workshop. They're going to have kind of a crosswind coming across them as they head down the Mulsanne straight. They're going to have a left to right wind facing them. So it'll be interesting to see if the drivers are really going to be affected by that coming down the long straightaway and into any of those chicanes. Want to give a big shout out to everybody in the YouTube chat as well. See Jean Beneke here as well. Can't wait to watch it later. He says, good comms, guys. Thank you so much. Well, thank you, Jean Beneke, and thank you for supporting Simu Nation. We wouldn't be here without all the drivers showing up week in and week out.
Absolutely. And let's find out what Max's time looks like. As you can see, the first two sectors, no improvement. Wouldn't be surprised if there's no change here. The last car's on track. Beneke on the far end of the circuit, everybody else crossing. Now, the 116 going a touch bit wider there, coming up to the final curves. What will the time be this time by? Remember, last lap invalidated. This lap needs to be in the 3:58s at the very least to try and get an improvement. Needs 3 tenths to move up a spot. Checker flag waves for him. Enthusiastic flag waving. And look at that third sector. Picked up in it by a couple tenths of a second. Just enough by 3/1000ths to move up 1 spot to end qualifying. So an impressive qualifying effort for some of the drivers, but a dominant one for Christopher Larson. 1 second up, Segura. That is dominant.
That sure is. Over Steve Ward in the 88. Then Max Mazeneuve in third. Patrick Herger in fourth. Cyril Fortin in fifth. Olivier Legrand in sixth. JP Ravel and Simone Bacon, and then Bergen Redacted.
Let's look at some of the drivers who are competing here tonight. Some of the others did not get the chance to put up times. As you can see, it's scrambled up a bit. Look at the change in conditions here. This is going to change curveball here for competitors in the background. We are starting at ninth, it looks like, for tonight. For Christopher Larson, we'll start alongside Steve Ward on your front row here tonight. Row number 2, Max Masoner will start on the inside. Patrick Herger, he'll start in the 4th spot. For 10th, starts in the top 5 with Legrande in the 6th position. Then Bill starts down at 7th in his Lexus. Then Moan in 8th. Bacon in Redacted Grim are amongst your top 10 here today, Segura.
Philippe Mazeneuve and Carl Maurer line at 6th row. In the 7th row will be Stéphane De La Fontaine and David Pittman. Following that will be Andre Moro and Pedro Sa in the 8th row. In the 9th will be Zach Wolf and Gilmer Fonseca. Row 10 belonging to John Beneke and Xavier Chamberlain, essentially doing a last to first challenge.
See some of the others that didn't set times on the board. That includes one of the CRTs. Many of these competitors may not get the chance to race tonight. Some of them will. It depends on if they're in the session and if they want to put up a good fight here tonight on the racetrack. There are plenty of competitors a part of Simu Nation, after all. When you think about just about how many people taken starts this season, it's been 36 at least that have entered into an event, and at least another 30 plus who have taken the green flag on the track. As you can see, some of the drivers did not leave pit road quite yet, but your front runners are getting all set to go. Your keys to victory as we set up for what is going to be actually a pretty short formation lap.
Well, you say it's going to be a short formation lap, but we're still going to be sitting behind the pace car or the safety car for about 2 minutes or so before we get running, if I'm not mistaken. We are at the Porsche curves, excuse me. So you're right, this is going to be a very short formation lap. What's that going to mean for the tires, Justin?
Well, not a lot of time to heat them up, for one thing, I think you could say. But two, it's also going to mean these drivers are going to have to immediately get up on the wheel on the cold tires in the night conditions. You see, it's pitch black, and that's why the lighting looks the way it is here. It will be, for the most part, in a lot of areas tonight, just your headlights that will guide you to the promised land. Speaking of which, it's just about time to get ready to go for tonight. Happy with us for this evening's coverage as we get set to go to make the run up to the Ford chicane and then up to the start and finish straight. It's Larson, it's Ward. They're your front row for the final race of the season for Simu Nation and the LMGT3 Masters, powered by NOX Gaming. As we get fired up and ready to go, of note, as these drivers get themselves situated, Chamberlain not projected as one of the drivers currently on track. The championship winner will not take part in the finale, his only missed race. Larson, though, he's focused on one thing and one thing only. Can he get another win in the books? He's got a couple. He'll lead them to the green. Safety car already off the circuit as we make our way down the front straightaway. Green lights are blinking. The lights are on. We're underway from France.
Big moves from drivers further back. Patrick Herger trying to find a way through, but there's an absolute roadblock in front of him right now. And he's got the looming attacking Cyril Fortin behind him as well. And there's a Porsche in the back that's Olivier Legrand trying to find a way through, and he sure has. Legrand
indeed able to find his way up a little bit here in the midst of the early Hornet's Nest. Miranda Munsto's going. Ballers go flying as pieces go over the place. A couple of different ballers had been over the racetrack as well as broken signs during the qualifying session. Already a couple pieces going about the circuit. So as we continue to early on zoom up, they'll make their way for the first time down the Mulsanne Straight and head up to the first chicanes. Already, remember, 2 chicanes here. Chicane Daytona, chicane Michelin. That'll be your passing opportunities. Turger blocking off opportunities, hugging the inner groove. Gets it blocked off this time as they go through Daytona.
I want to keep my eye on Steve Ward and Patrick Herger this race. They haven't been perhaps the drivers that you would say would always run in the top 3, but tonight they are running in the top 3. Those 2 McLarens are running 2-3 currently and are in a bit of a chase right now with Max and Cyril Fortin. But I think tonight could be Steve Ward's night to climb up onto the podium, Justin.
I think there's a good opportunity for that absolutely here as we go about. That in mind for some of the drivers. You see is Ramon Munsto's trying to find a way to carve ahead. More ballers go flying. I think we'll see that a lot tonight. You know the curse of the cones that usually hit here in other sims? It's almost like the ballers have replaced those cones, only this time they go absolutely rocket launching up in the air at this point.
Well, when you're driving as fast as these guys are, I mean, those ballers are absolutely going to go sailing. What has happened to John Beneke? I thought John started up a lot further than that, but no, he's just down 1, fortunately. Here's a side-by-side battle between Simon and Jared Bergen, redacted Graham, as we go under the Toyota banner. It's going to be a little bit of a switchback for the Toyota Gazoo bridge between the Ford Mustang and the Porsche, and more battles brewing as the Americans try to duke it out in their machines.
Yeah, a lot of these competitors just try and get early passes down because one of the main trends here, yes, cars stay pretty close together for a few laps, but like many endurance races, usually your top competitors find a way to break the draft. That's also important here and go into their packs. Side-by-sides like this could have potentially built up some buffers. You see the gap already 1 second to the next group. Verten goes into line, has his MRT teammate right on behind now, trying to work with a bit as they try to reset and go single file for the rest of Sector 3. Now, that in mind here, as we go about, obviously too, it's going to be very important to make sure you manage not just the tires, not just the fuel, but manage your own tempo if you want an opportunity to keep yourself in the conversation for the main pack, with especially the main pack already seeing a gap of 2 seconds for the lead.
And there's a big difference though right now between strategies, Justin. There's the flat out, as fast as possible strategy, and then there's definitely the fuel conservation strategy. Trying to make that pit stop as short as possible at a circuit like La Sarthe. It has to be imperative that you focus on one or the other. You can't focus on both, unfortunately. You can't be the fastest person on the racetrack and conserve the most fuel at the same time. It's just not possible. So drivers have to find some compromise. Well, if I'm not the fastest guy on the track, well, maybe I can save up some time in the pit stop and then jump or leapfrog anybody in the pit stop cycle would be the best opportunity to get in the lead. But at a circuit like this, track position doesn't really mean everything. So it's one thing to leapfrog your opponent in the pit stop cycle. It's another thing to actually stay ahead after that second phase. Definitely, especially with how things have been going here so far tonight. You see Philippe Maisonneuve, by the way, amongst your top 10. David Pittman trying to find a way to chip away in the cars behind, but for Maisonneuve, for the error Maisonneuve, if you will, Philippe's done pretty solid, top 10 of the points. He's had one bad race, that was a 30th place in one of his efforts as a DNF, but it's been pretty stable since then. Pittman, up and down in terms of comparison's sake. Pittman, for his sake,
hasn't had a race with a top 10 this season.
But maybe able to change that now. Pittman up 3 positions right now, but has Guilherme Fonseca behind, driving the Ferrari, trying to change up that 11th spot. If they can work together, actually, they have Philippe Mazeneuve right in front, and they could battle with him for that 10th place spot, but instead the 18 will go bang doors with a 177 through the second chicane of Michelin, and they're going to go side by side, continue this bout all the way down to the Mulsanne hairpin.
Yes, indeed. Look at the opportunity for the Corvette. I've seen lots of slides, yes, for him, but it's looked pretty stable in the early going on the colder tires. Can he keep it pinned to the inside to make the pass? There they go, through the Mulsanne chicane, and our bald girl's flying. Gets clear, holds him up, and watch for the run back for the Porsche. That's the thing. You find your way to clear. There's a great opportunity every time here. But the time you get to Indianapolis, if you time it up right, didn't come this time. Quite yet, at least.
Battles everywhere on this racetrack. It's unbelievable. I keep on clicking on the live timing, and everywhere I look, battles are brewing here through the fast left-hander into Indy. It's going to be a challenge, but Jonathan Desomo is going to be able to pull out all the stops on this attempt. Let's take a look up front as well, because Cyril Fortin is locked into a battle with Max right in front of him.
Yes, indeed. Right now, see those MRT teammates trying to figure out how to get around the 116. The thing is, though, see that little note difference in line, a little bit flatter of an approach to the chicanes I'm noticing here from the Lexus. Then you have Mazeneuve in front, who's trying to really arc it a bit more. You see right there, the Lexus almost is like the nose is shoving on him.
Well, that Lexus is also sitting in a lot of dirty air right now. The Porsche curves are notorious for being a vortex of dirty air with those walls being up so high. So that tunnel, that vortex effect really comes down to play a lot, as Christopher Larson is definitely driving an unstoppable lap right now. Again, pulls out a sub 4-minute lap. 3:59 that last time by, and Steve Ward's last time around is yet to be shown, but his best being at 4:06. Again, definitely showing us the 2 different strategies tonight. There's flat out push, and then there's conservation a little bit.
2 different approaches, absolutely. You look back, by the way, Bauer, who had a hit hard in qualifying, we've seen that car demolished. Able to hold things back for now for the 9th position. Bauer amongst those, again, with the karting background, go-karting specifically, I should say. Best finish this season of 12. Good start for that red machine as Philippe Mazeneuve tries to hold off Desormeaux in the midst of what is a 3-car battle once again for the straightaway.
Just checking out the timing tower, and I see David Pittman is now down 7 positions in pit road. Wonder if that was an incident or if that was this regularly scheduled stop. I mean, it can't be regularly scheduled. I'm gonna guess incident related. We'll try to get an update on that one. Here's Jonathan Desomo and Philippe Mazeneuve going after it into the first chicane, but the Mustang goes a little bit too deep. The Porsche tries to get around the long way, and it is able to do so. A nice looking overtake for the LMGT3 Master in the Porsche.
Absolutely. Right now, you can just see how much Philippe Mazeneuve doesn't want to give this up here. Going to cost him some ground to Bauer, but you see, even then, Bauer's in fact feeding draft to the both of them. You see the little swerve a bit to the middle for the middle of the racetrack. Now solidified into line. So move the 22 up a spot. If LaFontaine, his wildness continues. He passes by the Ferrari Fonseca, who's having some issues. Right now that 37 plummeting as you see Yo Flex wife because of Ford's the wrong way around. That was Bergen Redacted Grimt who is down the wrong way once again. Blinking lights abound for Moro as he ends up regathering his car.
Man, oh man, and what a weird or strange place for Jared Bergen Redacted to kind of be hanging out, throw out the yellow flag in such a weird location. So I'm sure the drivers were kind of not expecting that, and I think that's what caught out Guilherme Fonseca, who's having another little bit of an issue coming out of the Mulsanne hairpin. But now it will be nose to tail again for Max Mazeneau, but now he's behind Cyril Fortin, the number 99 Lexus, in an MRT sandwich right now. I'm sure that's not where the Simu Nation pilot wants to be, as he makes a little mistake coming out of Arnage, getting on the loud pedal, got a little loose there, but able to keep the car beneath them.
Absolutely a loose moment once again as we continue to see just how much these drivers, after a couple laps on the rubber, seem to just having the issue of keeping any grip to them. And now, just like that, Max Mazeneau is going to have to pick up a lot of tempo back. He was about equal with those he was battling with amongst that top three. Not anymore.
See, cheers for MRT in the YouTube chat. Cheers for Steve Ward as well. Well, let's give Steve Ward his obligated screen time because he's locked in a battle with Patrick Herger right now. This battle for the podium rests between McLarens. Cyril Fortin waiting for any opportunity to strike, but the gap right now was 2.5 seconds separating Fortin from that podium. Now, is he in a conservation mode of his own and trying to leapfrog these McLarens while they duke it out for the last step of the podium, Justin?
It's been a really good race, absolutely, we'll say, with what we've seen with Ward. Because, as some fans have noted, very consistent. He's got in a top 5 this season. That came early on in the season, the second race of the campaign. But since then, best finish came in the past 2 rounds before this week, 7th. So, Ward's been picking up tempo, has been solid, but the difference has been staying out of trouble. As the 220, he's able to pick up a spot back from the 270 as Andre lets him on through. I was about to say, though, when it comes to the case of Ward, though, and his conversation point, phenomenal start to this race. He's about to put to his test, though, because Herger is flying in terms of close-up. His fastest lap is 6 seconds quicker. He's going on the outside to pass him.
Patrick Herger going for that move into the first chicane, and it looks like it was definitely on. Had the slipstream and the overspeed to his name, but Steve Ward is no slouch of his own right, is going to hold the inside line and his defense. He's going to try to challenge going into the Michelin chicane next, Justin.
Here we go again, side by side. Run is there. Ward trying to get it right back. The more they fight, the more this opens up for Gordon. Keep in mind, he's already gained a couple tenths in the past couple of moments. The pass back, though, for Ward. 3 takes per second. They've lost more than a second with that as well as the race leader, but that is a different conversation when you have the leader running hot laps at the moment. That in mind here, these McLarens, your thoughts on how we've seen the balance play out this season for the McLaren and how today it seems you want to be in a McLaren with the way they're thriving tonight.
It really is just a give and take battle. I think the McLaren 720S really is just a balanced machine. Good aero package, has a lot of mid-speed drive. It's a mid-engine vehicle as well. So it has the balance kind of centered on the car and in the chassis. And it's just, like I said, a well-balanced vehicle. So you're going to see it perform really well at tracks like the Red Bull Ring. You're going to see it perform really well at Fuji, perhaps. And of course, at Le Mans currently, it's running very well, but a Ferrari actually leading the pack right now.
Yeah, it's been interesting in terms of that conversation point. Remember, as the season's gone on, there's been more and more patches too. So in a lot of cases, if anytime there's been an update to the sim, that's going to also impact how you approach the team side of things and in turn, how you approach the racetrack. Over the course of the builds, it's been really intriguing seeing that development with the sim as we touched upon throughout this. We're under an hour to go, And right now, we are into the daylight. As you see, the very dark conditions have turned into sunrise.
And now that the sun has begun to rise, I'm just curious about, does this change anything for the drivers? The temperature is going to increase slightly. We did see the track temperature just about 15 degrees Celsius, so it's a lot cooler than it normally is. You know, we see track temperatures around 30 degrees Celsius sometimes, you know, hot enough to fry an egg on almost if you're dealing with it in Fahrenheit. But today, the track is really, really cool, and maybe that's what's resulted in a couple of the drivers having some slip and slide moments that we saw during the qualifying heat.
Absolutely an opportunity for that, because yeah, the thought process is colder track, you go faster, right? That at least used to be the mindset for some of the sim racing world up until, I'd say, 2 years ago. In reality, faster, but also not going to get the tire temps as high because there's not as much energy being put for the racetrack itself or from the hotter track to push up those temps. You still have that being put in for the laps, but it's still going to be a factor in terms of how much grip you have in general. And as a result, you have to account for how much this track's going to be cool. Keep in mind, with the morning conditions, there is the thought process here too. It might be one of those types of races that goes from colder to hotter by the checker flag. It really depends on how quickly things intensify with the sunshine.
It'll be interesting, and it'll be a factor that I don't think we've really dealt with, as now Philippe Mazeneuve goes for a move on Karl Maurer, another McLaren pilot driving one of those 720Ss. And just checking in on some of the notes as well on the 720S and LMU, it got a meaningful BOP boost, a balance of performance boost, in 1.3 at a lot of circuits. And at Le Mans specifically, it's one of the GT3s that got a little bit more help than most in the current official patch note. So we're going to take a look at that as well and see how that impacted exactly. But it's one of the things that I think is really interesting as part of this development phase of LMU, as here comes Herger on Steve Ward yet again into the hairpin side by side. No bollards flying this time, but it will be the 88 in front of the 777.
Able to complete the pass again in terms of the defense. But right now, Ward, he's been swarmed constantly. They are faster than the Lexus, by the way. They're not even thinking of that. Herger's thinking about a look into Indianapolis. Takes the dive from the outside, coming up for the braking zone. Ward will try and keep it to the inside before the switchback for the lanes up to Arnage. There's the move for Herger before they get to Indy. Does Ward get the chance to pounce immediately back? He's thinking, he's prodding. He'll have to wait for the next time they make it up the Mulsanne straight, though, to reset as Herger is finally by.
And just taking a look at those Le Mans update notes. So just to solidify the point as well, at Le Mans specifically, the McLaren 720S LMGT3 Evo was given a 17 kilogram adjustment for its weight penalty. So that is absolutely enormous. While some cars were only getting plus or 5 kilograms added, changed, or removed to their ballast. For example, the Lexus getting plus 7 kilograms for their ballast for Le Mans. Continuous changes are going to evolve this simulator, and it makes it continuously exciting to see drivers compete at such a high level. Let's check back in, because Philippe Mazeneuve has Guillermo Perret behind him, JP Ravel in the mix, Karl Maurer and Stéphane de la Fontaine there as well.
Yep, you see some of these drivers really have fallen back to the lead, yeah, in terms of your track map. They're already by at least 5-10 corners. But these are these battle packs you normally see of very comparable speeds to the rest of the field. Right now, you see that for Perret trying to figure out a way to get back up to Felipe Maisonneuve into this conversation. Right now, though, the tough thing is all these drivers are going to be dealing with that dirty area you referred to, Sugar, in terms of some of the corner complexes that's going to put them back a bit, which may counter some of that long amount of draft you pick up down the straight anyway.
Will it counter it out at the end of the day? I'm not so sure, because the risk level becomes exponentially higher when you're in these drafting trains, especially coming through Tête Rouge and the Porsche curves. I think it's important to note how much risk the drivers take going through the Porsche curves, darn near flat out at 180 kph, plus. It's just absolutely relentless through there, and the drivers are doing it in dirty air, getting their aero disturbed and not having an effective run, such as you see here from Guillermo Perret. Trying to get a move done on the Ford Mustang, looks to the inside line, but Guillermo isn't really giving enough room there to the Corvette and barges his way out, but it is respectful racing to say the least.
Been relatively clean so far, no major spins in terms of from contact, but the competitors themselves trying to figure out the ways to go. Mind you, for those curious, what is the virtual energy store at? We're about 50% of the way through already. 50%. That is quickly burning that total through, by the way. Side by side for the Corvette, making the move once again on the pass in the 52. But was about to say with that, we used a lot of virtual energy, have we not, already, even over the course of not even up to 30 minutes yet.
Very true. We're not even halfway through this stint, and the drivers have already burned through 50% of their fuel loads already. And there goes JP Ravel trying to get a move late on the brakes, coming down into the Mulsanne hairpin, but he's too late on the brakes. Is he going to go out to the gravel trap? No, he's going to be able to get the move stuck around the outside around Felipe Maisonneuve in the 177. Now it's going to be a drag all the way down to the right-hander before we got down to Indy left.
Here we go again. Locked into the inside. The Lexus looks to move. Rivel tries to go on the outside now. Got to the fender. Had to lift the touch. No, will take the run instead. Felipe Maisonneuve with that near squeeze. Recognizes he's got the disadvantage. Gets a little late arc for his troubles and gets off the gas. That's allowed Karl Maurer to be right in position to go. You see this from what you see in the sim. The onboard a little bit wide. Maurer might be on the offensive himself in a lap, because look how much that gap's already grown. Already a second.
I just wanted to see if Felipe Maisonneuve was potentially fuel saving or not. You can see the delta on his screen. He's already lost 2.5 seconds. Karl Maurer right behind. You can see in that televised rear view mirror, as well as the virtual mirror at the top of your screen, how close he is. Christopher Larson pulls out all the stops again. Now at 3:57.9, he is doing qualifying runs right now and running circles around the rest of the field.
That is absolutely absurd what's going on in the front of the field. We've been talking about all these battles. Larson's just been doing absolutely unreal things. Kind of making his mission to solidify things and then some. It's the second most wins on the season. That in mind with the battle we continue to see on your screen coming up to 50 minutes to go here. Maurer is still in the spot, where he's now trying to figure out the close-up yet again. And look at Alex Bacon. He was looking solid in qualifying, slipped back a bit early on in this one. Last time by was 2 seconds quicker than Maurer in terms of his closes. There goes the Ford of the 177. Felipe Maisonneuve is off the track, and there goes all the spots. Nearly comes up into the Ferrari de la Fontaine as he shuffles back on the track.
Just absolutely gutting for Felipe. It just was not going well for him on that previous lap, lap 5, and then lap 6, it just ends up going worse to wear instantaneously as he tries to make a run through Dunlop. Just not the result we want to see coming into the finale of this championship, and it's definitely I just want to say, I know a lot of people say it's not how well you raced, you're only as good as your last race, yada, 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 but don't let this race define your entire championship. If the results didn't go well for you this last run. If you're Steve Ward or Patrick Herger, however, let this race define you, because these are some of the best results of the season and some of the best battles we've seen Steve Ward be able to showcase for us, hasn't it, Justin?
Definitely so. And I will say this has been a very strong race for the competitors so far, but it's still early in that conversation. A lot can happen over the course of 49 minutes, to say the very least. We've seen wild things in the course of the season. What's been your favorite moment for the director's seat, seeing the craziness that's popped up in races and some of the intense battles in others?
Man, from a perspective of watching it from a producer's eyes, there have been so many moments, I think, where I have yelled, screamed, and shouted from behind the microphone, only into your ears, of course, not into the ears of the fans that can listen, but the attacking glances at Silverstone were absolutely phenomenal. I think that was great. We had a great show at Paul Ricard as well. I mean, so many tracks were on this calendar that provide Monza. Oh my goodness, Monza as well. Oh, so many memorable moments. Could I name one off the top of my head? No. But every single track that we ran had its own iconic moment. And what stands out in my head was Christopher Larson going wheel to wheel through Maggots and Beckett's with Xavier Chamberlain. About second half of the race, I think. And that view that we had looking at Maggots and Beckett's from the ground up, Christopher Larson in that red, white, and blue Ferrari just looks so good. And it was a great shot for me as a producer, and the action that it produced was absolutely phenomenal. So hats off to all the drivers that were able to pull off amazing shots like that for me able to capture throughout this entire season, because without you all, this championship wouldn't be possible. So what's my favorite moment? I'm going to luck out, or I'm going to duck out and say all of them, Justin. They're all my favorite.
I mean, I will say, I remember the first race of the season that comes to mind. Larson and Chamberlain in particular started things off with a bang with an intense battle we've seen at Silverstone. Came down to virtual energy with Larson trying to wheel the car, which we found out after with wheel damage. It ended up going the way, of course, of the Porsche in the very end in terms of the wildness at the start of the season. But it kind of set the tone for the championship and showed two of the best in this style of racing really set things up all year to try and go blow for blow. And really, thinking about it points-wise, if it wasn't for the DNF in the second race of the season, we might still be talking about how tight the championship is. Yeah. Yes, Chamberlain already on the podium every single race. They're outside the DNF 2 races, Larson not in the top 3. But Larson kept it very close the entire season and made it to where if Xavier stepped away at any point, had any issues in his circumstances here, Segura, it would have been the Ferrari likely to pick up the pieces.
100%. Yeah. I mean, we could play the what if games a lot, but I think Christopher Larson definitely, if he didn't have that DNF going into the second round, as Carl Maurer nearly was taken out by Alex Bacon in the background going into the first chicane, coming down the Mulsanne straight. But definitely a game of what ifs with Christopher Larson and Xavier Chamberlain. Obviously, Xavier Chamberlain sitting out of this one because the championship is clinched. But should he have sat out any other race in this championship, or should a personal matter have come up and taken him out of this race or any one of the races, it definitely would have been a different story that we would have been telling going here to the Circuit de la Sarthe for sure. but the championship still stayed very tight between the competitors. We're still talking about P2 and P3 up for grabs. We're still talking about P4 and P5 up for grabs as well. Pierre and Laporte not showing up tonight, unfortunately. So P4 still up for grabs for the likes of guys like Steve Ward, Patrick Herger.
Yeah, there's an opportunity, absolutely, to at least gain in our spot. Remember, that also set up after Laporte at the DNF last time out as Maurer goes into gravel. Maurer going down the order once again. Once again, you take a look away for a moment, and all of a sudden, things bubble over. Maurer's McLaren onto the gravel trap, drops down to 12.
An unfortunate mistake there for Maurer as he was getting a little bit of pressure put on there behind by Alex Bacon, and I think the pressure just eventually boiled over from that first chicane to the second down into the Mulsanne hairpin. It really challenged him and will really actually kind of just express the gap or the pace difference now. And speaking of pace difference, checking in with the leaders, it was the last lap around that was a 3:58 for Christopher Larson, so still trying to find the pace around those qualifying times, or still putting those down. Patrick Herger, though, last time around was in the 4-minute range. So definitely 2 seconds back around there, but definitely I think in a fuel conservation strategy mode. Looking at the virtual energy, he's about 4% better than Christopher Larson is right now. What does that mean in the pit stop time? Well, that means less time with the fuel hose connected, as there's a Corvette around. That'll be Guillermo Perez off at the Porsche curves, and the driver that was in ninth now starts to tumble down the order for the number 52.
That car's not moving either. Already onto the toe. It looks like he might be a DNF here. They'll put him behind all the drivers in the garage, essentially. And there goes a huge amount of points potentially to end off his season. Look at Maurer now with coming up to 42 minutes to go, by the way. Light still on the cars at the moment. It's been the type of race I've noticed too, where a lot of these competitors, if you make any mistake, it's just been magnified. Just with the fact of you lose your respective pack, it's so difficult to get back in a rhythm to close. Take, for example, Maurer. Last time by 4:03.5. Bacon was in the 4:02.1s. The majority of the drivers who ran clean laps, which isn't a guarantee, by the way, a lot of people have invalidated laps over the course of the run so far, are running 4 minutes on average. Just those big differences are not being chipped away in a quick manner or a hard charge to the field like we've seen at some of the other tracks over the course of the season. This track is making you pay for any mistakes and saying it's going to be very hard to get back to your spot because of that.
Le Mans is definitely a different beast than most tracks. I mean, any track that combines public roads and a private racetrack together is darn near unheard of. I mean, I know we hear about it a lot at the Nürburgring, the Nürburgring 24, the NLS starting up or running this past weekend with a ton of excitement and on some very unfortunate news there. But here at Le Mans, they shut down the public roads and open them up to the racetrack. And so this provides a lot of excitement, and it provides, it's not a street circuit per se, but it does provide a different level of excitement, making the circuit so long, sitting at, 17 kilometers for its inception, 13.6 kilometers to date, or 8.4 miles / cheeseburgers for us Americans. Le Mans is not just a racetrack. It's really an endurance exam, whether you're running at long stints, short stints, 20-minute race, hour and 15 minutes long. It's got long straights, massive braking zones, changing light, non-stop traffic management, whether you're talking about endurance, whether you're talking about multi-class or a sprint race. And Tête Rouge, it's one of the most important corners on the track because it sets you up in the entire charge onto the Mulsanne straight. And it's just one of the most defining sites in motorsports, even with 2 chicanes now breaking it up since the 90s due to safety concerns.
Absolutely a lot of transition when it comes to the history side of this racetrack in turn. And as a result here, it's been a staple for a lot of series to go here in the first place. Hence why we're here tonight, of course. Here on the French countryside, if you will, as some would say. And I know in terms of the virtual history, there's so many conversations just how you approach the racetrack. Remember, in some opportunities, we've seen just where the line has really shuffled over the course of time, Sigur. We've seen, for example, up Most End Straight, some of the drivers tonight really using the middle of the circuit, where a couple of years ago in some sims that was the meta. Then they updated the cars where that absolutely bottoming you out. A lot of these drivers tonight are not afraid to search for lines, as you see a lot of the drivers also planning their stops coming up.
Drivers planning their stops and putting in the request to pit entry in now. Let's take a look at the remaining virtual energy that the drivers have in store. Right around that 12-second mark, Patrick Herger again preserving that fuel, or that virtual energy sits around 5% higher than the rest of the field. Should be able to go at least 1 lap longer. If I'm not mistaken, it's about 5% extra a lap to go an extra lap here at Le Mans. So if that's the case, Patrick Herger can go 1 lap longer than Christopher Larson at this point in time.
Yeah, there is that potential possibility here with the way the virtual energy has been working out here with the charges some of the drivers have done. But really, there isn't too much wiggle room if you end up trying to push an extra couple percent here. It's not like some of the other tracks where you burn maybe 4%. That burn has been at least doubled, I've noticed, over the course of this race here tonight, just to be able to get to the energy, to get around the racetrack, rather, over the course of the evening. As they make their way right now, some of the drivers up the straightaway. Just, again, emphasize, if you even wanted to think about that, you had to be with the drafting partner. But even then, in only an hour and 15 minutes, it's not as advantageous compared to, say, if you're running a 24-hour race.
Well, in a 24-hour race, you're definitely going to have to balance your aggression with mechanical sympathy. The race is designed to test both performance and durability over 24 hours. That still translates into sprint races or even quasi-endurance races like we're faced with right now. You know, 1 hour mark isn't really an endurance race, it's more of an endurance stint, but still the testing track is here. We're on the proving grounds right now of Le Mans, where millions of individuals have tested metal, steel, rubber, asphalt to try to see who can become the quickest and the most reliable around one of the most grueling tracks in the world. There's been no other feat like it, and no other feat to represent it in its likeness. Many have tried, but has not been replicated. The Circuit de la Sarthe definitely has its key sections, like the Dunlop area, the Forest S's, and Tête Rouge, that date back to the 1932 revision of the circuit. Although things have changed due to safety, the test of time still stands. Can you survive 24 hours and the darkness at Le Mans?
Right now, as we've now gone to way in the morning, and as De La Fontaine goes off in the sand trap and kicks up all sorts of dirt over the racetrack. About to see a pit party brigade as these drivers get ready for their service. 15 seconds to lead for those just tuning in. Looks like Larson might be thinking about that stop pretty soon, if not now. You can see that interval starting to rapidly go down, and yep, that's the indication. Larson has entered pit road. The service is underway. He has to get moved back, but the gap is still very difficult to even trim.
Herger now inherits the lead of the race And last time by, unleashes the beast. A 3:59 ain't that last time by, so almost matching his best lap time. I think he's definitely requesting to pit, and the intent is there to come down pit road with 8.6 virtual energy remaining. The pit road is getting very excited right now with drivers as Cyril Fortin comes down, Olivier Legrand in there as well, Max Mazeneuve in the lane, and the 88 that was battling earlier with Patrick Herger, the 777.
Yep, so it's been impressive what the 777's been able to do. Might be able to save some time. See if they choose to do that. Everybody else, as we expect here, by the way, in the midst of their pit party, as you see, Steve Ward, he's off and away.
Whoa.
And that's a lot closer than you'd expect. I think Ward, with what we're seeing now, I think might be with McLaren's here, able to take a little less fuel and is taking a gamble to see if he can keep up with Larson with the lighter car.
That is a huge gamble, but a huge gain for Steve Ward in the 88. He's gained 16 seconds in the pit stop alone. Steve Ward could walk away with a win tonight. My voice is trembling with excitement to get a new champion crown for the LMGT3 Masters, brought to you by Simu Nation and presented by V-Speed.
So all of a sudden, the strategy changing up here on V-Speed. As you see, a majority of the drivers in pit. Dylan Fontaine is one of the only other cars not yet to pit. Daniel Simone also picking up a lot of spots because Ford, in his sake, mind you, lost a fair bit of ground, filled it all the way up to the top in terms of the gas in the Lexus. So that Corvette is now net top 6.
Very good for Simone, who's got no net gain so far, but he could be a net gain of 2, all things considered. Cyril Fortin trying to change that up and snatch away that 8th position spot from Daniel Simone right now. Right now, the gap is separated by 0.3 of a second, but that Lexus is looking menacing in the background.
We know the speed of Cyril here this week when it comes to this racetrack. We know that Simone, in terms of his starts over the course of this series, has been solid. In fact, only made the one previous in the top 10 for that one. Last time out on the racetrack, actually, when you compare it to remember, Ford was actually DNF last time out, finished 32nd on the points metric after a second on debut. You know that Lexus gonna go right onto the attack though. Look at the run, here it comes. Porsche staying to the opposite side. Here comes the 99, now gets the pole this time for Desormeau's up 13 overall. Side by side, and the braking zone. Fortin jumps around outside, gets it done.
Good looking move, set that one up a long way back before we got to Indy. And then you have to get hard on the brakes for Arnage, the slowest corner on the track. Drivers really have to manage it because it even feels slower because how much speed the drivers carry into that part of the lap coming through Indy. And the battle continues as Daniel Simone has not finished this bout yet with its Lexus counterpart.
Not quite, and we know just how much these battles today have kind of sparked up here, how difficult some of the moves have been over the course of the run. You've seen already some dust kick up there for the last corner. 99 overall, losing 4 spots on the racetrack by pit stops, should be a -2. Wow, Simone able to pick up a fair bit of ground on the cycle. Remember, difference about 2% virtual energy. Herger is in, the Fontaine is in. So that will see Larson drive his way to the lead. He's already built up 3 seconds on Ward.
Now,
and that might be the big thing. Where's Herger going to be compared to Ward?
Exactly my next question. Herger on the exit, Ward getting to the line. Now this is going to be tight between the 88 and the 777. Gets to the line, hits the limiter. Where does the 777 and the 88 come out? Well, it's going to be right where they left off. It's going to resume right where we want it to. Nose to tail, Justin.
Nose to tail they go, and how close they are. And remember, Herger now going to have 10% more virtual energy. He had the same amount of fuel as Steve Ward did after pit stops. Larson, in his sake, overall in the pit cycle, ended up losing 12 seconds on the track. Interesting to say at the very least, but keep in mind the gap's also already grown by a couple seconds since his pit stop.
Yes, it has. The gap has grown since the pit stop. And we got to check out this battle again. Cyril Fortin and Daniel Simon separated by just about nothing. And then I believe that'll be the number 18 of David Pittman back out on track in front of them. So lap traffic giveth, lap traffic taketh away in the same breath, of course.
You see how much the traffic is starting to build up, by the way. Some of it, like Pittman, is lap traffic in the midst of this choo-choo train. See how they handle the blue flags. Remember, that was a discussion point a couple rounds ago, was lap traffic management. Simu still trying to play different lines, not feed draft to anyone else in the tow. You see right there, the Lexus again with the arrow, having to go a little bit more of a straighter line on these entries. Here's the look from Simon, trying to find a way to keep himself ahead as he gets the pole from a fellow Corvette here, under 30 minutes to go.
Where has the time gone, Justin? It feels like we just started this race. We're only 11 laps into it, according to the timing tower. That doesn't tell the whole story now, does it? We've seen battles left, right, and center, such as this one, as the Lexus number 99 from Team MRT tries to make its move and presence known on Daniel Simon, able to get it done at the Michelin chicane. Coming down the Mulsanne straight down into the Mulsanne hairpin. Can the Corvette try to challenge back, or is it all for none? The number 18 of Pittman stays out of the way in front of these two, battling it out on the racetrack. Slow car flashing ahead, so the drivers are aware, but there goes the Lexus late on the brakes, but on the optimum line is going to be the Corvette. Kicking up a little bit of pocket sand is going to be that number 18. Just up ahead of these guys is going to be Jonathan Desormeaux. He's 2.5 seconds up ahead in that Porsche, and you can see him just barely in this shot.
Just how much some of the drivers are starting to equalize a little bit on the racetrack. So now, as you see the Lexus start to break itself away, this is where we see where some of the drivers will get themselves steadied out. A lot of the air packs have separated out. Max Mason, for his reference, by the way, did find his way back into the top 5 and has a chance for 4th pretty soon. On his recovery, he was able to jump ahead some of the errors he made a mistake with earlier on. So, as we keep on going here, it's been an impressive season to say the very least. It's been an impressive drive to say the very least for a lot of competitors. Who is not one of your championship frontrunners has impressed you the most this season?
Ooh, now you're asking the really good questions. Who has been not at the front of the championship that has impressed me the most? Well, right now, can I pick a few, Justin?
Yes, you can pick a few.
Okay, I'm going to pick a few notable mentions tonight. Steve Ward and Patrick Herger. I think some of the most improved drivers throughout the championship, and Steve Ward definitely comes to mind when I think of one of the most improved drivers that has not had the points reflect how much effort and talent that they truly have. That's one of the reasons why I'm so excited for Steve Ward's results tonight. Hopefully not giving him the commentator's curse as well in the same breath, but Steve Ward definitely at the top of my list. And then I'll pick a newcomer. That's going to be JP Ravel. Although JP hasn't been the most consistent of drivers, And although JP Ravel closed in on the championship or entered the championship about halfway through or later stage of the championship, if I remember correctly, just has been around in the top 10 for the most part. Has been mixing it up with some of the faster drivers when the Lexus perhaps is the most competitive at a track. JP Ravel has been there somehow to mix it up in the top 10. Although the result today isn't looking great, down in P12 with 5 lost, still 5 up is where we started this event. So again, the consistency not being there for Ravel, but I definitely think with time the development can come, but the pace definitely there for the 202.
Definitely, I think so, especially what we've seen in certain terms of spot starts. You know who's also impressed me in terms of some of the drivers, in terms of 0 for 10, in terms of some of the starts, no small sample size, has looked pretty impressive, had a good reputation when it comes to MRT this season. We've seen how some of those drivers have driven and seen him make appearances here. Hopefully see him continue on in this campaign in terms of future runs, because in terms, at least in this action, he's looked competitive, to say the least, and is one of the better drivers when it comes to Montreal Racing Team with what they're able to produce on the racetrack. So, could be an interesting one to watch for. Really like what I've seen so far this campaign and throughout the campaign, though, on the resiliency of the 263 Legrand in particular has looked pretty steady. Also, a top 10 points run, top 10 competitor. He's looked pretty good over the course of this series in the Porsche. Very comfortable with it.
And Karina in the chat, poor Ravel catching strays. It's like being randomly called on by the teacher. I meant that with the most amount of love. JP Ravel, hopefully you take those comments with the best of intentions, I hope. Meant no disrespect whatsoever. I think you're a fantastic asset and participant to the Simu Nation LMGT3 Masters Championship. But I do wish that the results reflected the amount of pace that you have, if that makes sense.
Yes, you can tell right now the focus is on for the rest of the field to finish things out for the next 22 minutes. Pedro Saul, by the way, just had to duck down pit road for service. They had already had a few stops overall. So, back to the closest battle of the racetrack. Herger, what do you do for his sake here? Because right now their speed, amongst these two at least in this battle, are dead even. Herger hasn't been able to chew away the gap to Ward.
The gap has stayed relatively stagnant. The lap times last time around, 4:01. Last time from Herger, 4:01 as well. So, we've reached a stalemate as far as pace is concerned between the 777 and the 263. So, will it come down to a battle of mistakes within the last 21 minutes of this event? Well, time will tell who will come out on top and who will be crowned best of the rest. But right now, it's secured that Christopher Larson has dominated this race up until this point. But the virtual energy, well, that's starting to scare me a little bit as we start to see drivers trickle in to the 40% range.
Yeah, I'm very curious if this is going to work out in terms of virtual energy, in terms of Ward, because it is pushing it. Because remember, we're at about that mark after not even 30 minutes in. And right now, it might be just enough. It might be, but it really depends on if Ward has to save a little bit, back off his pace, because he's much lower than everybody else here. The tough thing is, there's only so much you can do if he has to back off the pace to try and not burn so much on that, because, well, if he gives up that 1 second gap, Herger's going to zoom by and he might not be able to get it back.
And that's the bone to contend with right now. is you have to save fuel to make it to the checkered flag. If you're Steve Ward, unfortunately, at this point in the race, just doing some quick napkin math, if it took us around 11 laps to get to the fuel stage, we're gonna push around another 6 laps or so. So if we're expected to finish this on lap 19, it's looking like it's going to be dangerously close for Steve Ward, unfortunately, getting down to the checkered flag. But the catch-22 is, if you back off to the pace where you get to fuel save now and do some lifting and coasting, well, Patrick Herger is there as well, and he's got a significantly more amount of virtual energy than you. He's going to be able to push flat out. I want to ride on with Steve Ward right now and take a listen to see if he's lifting and coasting going into corners like Arnage. Absolutely not. There was no lifting and coasting there, was there, Justin?
Not really. He's not backing down. In fact, he knows the pressure is starting to build a little bit more now that Herger got a little bit closer. I think going to keep an eye on those gauges, obviously, and also where those deltas lie, but I think he's making it clear he's just going to run and see if this works, get his best finish of the season, get himself on the podium.
Goes coast to coast through the Porsche curves and just does a tremendous job of commanding respect from this racetrack that we've treaded on for over a century. The only time in which we haven't raced at the Circuit de la Sarthe was, of course, the breaks for World War II, where we had to take a break from racing altogether. But history has returned to the circuit post-war, and the drivers all came flooding back. And we still have the centenary that we celebrated not too long ago here at the circuit. And now moving on to much greater milestones here at Le Mans. The Dunlop Bridge, going under it now, and then through the Dunlop curves, Steve Ward in P2, Patrick Herger not too far behind, waiting for any opportunity to strike.
Indeed, and you can just see by the way, of course, this, how much the dirt and the marbles are starting to build up a little bit, not just on the car, but on that windshield also. This track taking a fair bit of rubber all course all over it. See some of it on the roads as it's built up on the grooves. There they go again to the middle of the racetrack, though. It seems as though this is, again, what I was talking about, where it used to be the same thing in some sims. A lot of cars here not afraid to run that middle of the seam where that's basically where it's dead center down the road before they then eventually blend to set up for the next corner.
Yeah, it's interesting because we didn't see Xavier Chamberlain run that line during the track guide. I would just have made the assumption that it wasn't the preferred line for the drivers to take, as we have noted it bottoming out cars previously across various sims, just rendering of the track being very different. But because this is an actual highway, you can understand why there's a crest in the middle. It's for runoff of water. So should water accumulate in the middle of the track or in the middle of the highway, it would theoretically run off to the sides into the grass areas that are adjacent to the racetrack. And that's why we have such a profound bump in the middle of this track, is because that's actually, well, the median for the highway.
Yeah, exactly. And for some, it used to be a faster by a couple hundredths mark down each straightaway the pass, but here today, a lot of the drivers not afraid to utilize it here in LMU, pick up some tricks that have seen some uses in the past here. But with 15 minutes to go, we're running out of laps to be able to work out how the passes will work. So far, we've ran 14 total laps, coming up to start 15 this time by. So the laps have been building up pretty quickly. That in mind here, you start to add up the minutes, 4, 8, 12. You're talking maybe 3-4 laps to finish out this race. If you're Herger, you need to get another couple tenths closer. It might be 1 or 2 chances at this rate.
But 1 or 2 chances might be all you need to get close. But we know that catching is one thing. Passing is a completely different ball game. If you're Patrick Herger, where do you want to make the opportunity happen on Steve Ward?
Where would you think it would come? Outside of the main spots down to the Molson straight in Indianapolis, where would you want to do it?
I prefer to make a move going down into the Ford chicane, to be honest with you. I think if you can set something up coming out, and this is from my experience personally, if you can set something out of Indy through Arnage, challenge or compromise the run going down into the Porsche curves to where the car is forced to defend a little bit, throw them off their balance. The exit of Porsche curves is compromised. Now you can challenge safely going down into the Ford chicane. And I think that is the safest way to make an attack happen here at Le Mans in equal machinery.
See the different lines. Herger trying to search around for clean air as they make their way down through Dunlop and through Porch of the racetrack, up, heading through Chapelle, Forest, and then Tetra Rouge. So as they march their way through, by the way, as you can tell with all this, it's been a dominating day for Larson to mention one more time. Up now 12 seconds. He's right back to about where he was when the pit cycle began on the racetrack. These cars, by the way, seen previously, have a gap of 22 seconds for the podium itself. So right now that Ferrari just blistering. Ward and Herger, as long as they make it on gas, have a podium in hand, and Herger, my goodness, he went wide.
I surely thought that was going to be a race ender. Holy Toledo, Herger trying to challenge into the first chicane, couldn't quite keep it planted on the brakes, unwound all that work that he was able to pull out, coming through Dunlop, through Tête Rouge, down the Mulsanne straight, now sits at a 1.3 second deficit and has to climb that mountain all over again. Big shout out to Olivier Langdoc in the chat. Hello, sir.
So just like that, the challenge is on, and the hellos look to rain upon those who are able to find their way to victory lane to say hello from the steps on it. But with under 12 laps to go, Herger needs to find a way again to gain the time immediately. Remember, once he got within 6/10, that car was gaining a fair bit in terms of at least here rapidly. Right now, see that distance gaining back down because Ward didn't have a good run out of the corner.
No, he didn't. He actually kissed a little bit of that gravel coming out of the Mulsanne hairpin. And now this is going to be the long run down into Indianapolis. A really challenging right-hander before we flick it left for Indy. And then Arnage, the slowest part of the track. He's able to close down the gap. We're within a 6/10 margin. This is exactly what Herger needed. A small mistake from Ward to assist him back into the fight.
See just how much he's trying to saw at the wheel a little bit, make sure there's no major bobbles. He's back within that elusive 6/10 mark. Might have another opportunity this or next lap to go right back at Ward. Keep pressurizing him to burn up the virtual energy. That's down to 22%, by the way, for the 88 machine as we close up late. This is your closest battle of the racetrack for those curious, by the way. Most of the R groups separated out by a minimum 2 seconds. Look at the little slides right now Herger's putting into the corner. Trying to work his way up through Corvette, Maison Blanche, all the way up to Ford to try and find a way to march through. 2/10 lost in dirty air alone.
The dirty air through the Porsche curves is one of the hardest parts to negotiate of Le Mans. because you're trying to stay so close to the car in front and stay as close as you possibly can coming down into the Virage de Ford, the Ford chicane. But you compromise yourself a lot, and the risk level, like I talked about, is very, very high. Request for pit coming out for Steve Ward. I think that's just in case he does run out of fuel, but it does look like we are going to get 3 laps. Oh no, Steve Ward is in trouble.
Yes, that's going to be extremely close. And you see right there, he's already thinking, am I going to make it? Do I have to throw an audible and throw away a podium after running top 3 all race long? It was a gamble in terms of the track position in the first place. But again, he didn't really gain anything from the call long term. If you think about it that way, with the undercut, Ward did eventually fall back right back to where Herger was running anyway. So it didn't really work out on the gamble in the first place for him. Herger being able to push that extra lap on the already up to temperature tires, gained right back anyway in the long picture.
You're absolutely right. That is a huge point to identify. Steve Ward fell right back into his battle with Patrick Herger. At the end of the day, making an extra trip down pit road here at Le Mans will definitely remove you from the podium, and maybe even the points that you genuinely deserved here today with the pace that you're able to showcase. It's gonna be a bit of a shocker moment for Steve Ward once he realizes that he's running out of fuel. If he can make it to the checkered flag, he's going to be the hero of the race. But if he cannot make it to the checkered flag, it will definitely be egg on the face, because he could have just taken another couple of liters of fuel to make it to the end, or a couple liters of virtual energy in the lane, and still held on. Patrick Herger closing down the gap on Steve Ward just in front. You can see the lap delta there, darn near identical to their best lap times. Drivers are picking up the pace as the fuel loads all come down in the final stages of the Circuit de la Sarthe, brought to you by the LMGT3 Masters and Simu Nation, presented by NOX Gaming.
Powered by NOX Gaming, indeed. But look at this! Herger, unexpected in Indianapolis, goes on through, passes by Ward. Where was that from? That was 3 car lengths back on entry.
That was a long way back in a late send. Steve Ward potentially was doing some lifting and coasting there, coming down into Indy. I think he thought he was safe, but no, Patrick Herger with a little lick of the stamp and a send.
That was bold. That was bold, to say the very least there. And now this puts extra emphasis on the situation for Ward to have to make 11% virtual energy work in the course of 6 minutes. Now as the time ticks away, probably at the mark, you can say 2 to go based on the minutes. Really depends on what the flagman would do in terms of the sim, because in some sims, you have to see the flag and sometimes you not. There are 6 minutes to go. Right now, Larson already at what will likely be 2 to go on the season.
Yes, likely 2 to go for sure, but as you stated, it's definitely going to be up to the simulator and the flagman to decide what shall be happening for certain. One thing is for certain is that Christopher Larson holds on to a 16-second lead in front of Patrick Herger and Steve Ward. The VE virtual energy looks good for Christopher Larson as he sits at 19.6%. Steve Ward, on the other chance, looks at 9.4%. With these 2 laps left to go, I think it's going to be a slow 2 laps for Ward.
Yeah, especially even though he's now going to have to figure out a way around if he wants a step. If he wants a podium outright, get a good finish to end off the season, get himself his first podium outright. Quite simply, he cannot run out. Look at that, a drive-through though. Deschanel will have to come down pit road himself, coming up to what will be his final lap. You can see already issues building up for the 22 lane, and he's off the track. Looked like he had damage on the front end, and he's pulled to the side.
I think that's a pullover out of frustration at the end of the day to add insult to injury. Getting the track limits there, he is now having to drive through the lane to suffer that penalty, and I think any driver would be understanding of wanting to call it quits after that. Definitely unfortunate, and not the way we want to see the championship end for some drivers. But for here and now, it's Patrick Herger and Steve Ward going to be the two combatants to bring it home to the checkered flag for P2 and P3. Christopher Larson in front by 17 seconds has really put on a showstopper tonight.
And now the intensity level about to pick up for a couple different opportunities here with spots on the line. Bergen Redaction Grid, by the way, is within about seconds just about in his forward to Morrow, but everybody else just about closing to the checkered. Here's the look here. Their battle is a fair ways back, by the way. They are going to have to go about 3/4 of a lap to make it around. I don't know if there's going to be enough time after the flag's taken on the marker to finish things up in his circumstance, especially when it comes to potential runoff. The 220 here is gaining quickly on that 270.
Pushing hard, pushing fierce. The white-fledged monster is challenging his American brother in front of Andre Morrow in the 270. Ford Mustang himself, and the roar of American muscle will illuminate the racetrack coming down the Mulsanne Straight.
Right now, trying to figure out a way to go. We can tell you one thing though, jump to that battle for a second again, because that number is 2.4%. Ward might not make it a pit road here. He is burning rapidly. Has to take an emergency stop coming to what may be the final lap of the season. Right now, he is still working as quick as he can to make it a pit road. Remember, it's a penalty if you end up going out there and staying with the virtual energy, and then the car will stall it anyway. Here they go. Ward is in. He'll have to give up a podium, possibly. It depends on how close the 263 gets.
I am just speechless and gutted right now for Steve Ward. Could not have wanted this to happen to anybody, let alone the driver that I had picked to be one of my most improved on the season. Steve Ward coming down the lane, getting that service now, will come out after a quick refueling session. But here comes Olivier Legrand in that 263, and he has Max Mazeneuve in tow. So now the podium battle is going to become a little spicier as the trio are going to duke it out.
Now it's the MRT into the podium spots here late with a minute to go on the clock and on the season. Berger comfortably in second. Max Mazeneuve trying to find a way to go. Steve Ward only took a couple percent of virtual energy / fuel, by the way. Tried to sacrifice things, but only able to come out into a battle for the top 5 after his situation. But for Max Mazeneuve, remember, talking about the difficulty of recoveries, it's going to be difficult for Ward to even get past Lexus, because that has been a good 99 car here today. Look at this run for Ward, though. He is flying. 2/10 picked up to start off the straight.
Ward is not messing around right now. He is driving furiously. He wanted that podium so badly. but it just didn't go his way right now. It's going to be tight coming down into the first chicane, but I don't think it's enough to get a move done on Sarthe. I think you got to wake up a little bit early in the morning to get one done on the number 99 MRT pilot.
Again, right now things are looking steady for the top 3 spots right now in terms of the points tallies. Find out how things go. We'll touch upon that afterwards. Ward is going right now for the top 5. Here comes the 88 on the outside. Ward drives by. Ward able to move back to 5th on his recovery, but the clock now at full zeros.
Riding right with Steve Ward and Sarthe. It's nose to tail right now between the duo, and we've got nose to tail battles between Olivier Legrand and Max Mazeneuve as well.
Yep, you see how much right now the push is on as these drivers get ready to finish up the campaign. Right now, Larson going to the final sector. Battle is on for that final step of the podium quickly. See some of the others as they group together. Ward on the reset. Looking for another move back on Forden. Side by side, Ward trying to find a way to get around through Indianapolis. He'll take the spot beforehand. Now Wolferton get a chance to recover back. But right now, if you would turn your attention to the front, Christopher Larson is just about to come across for the final time this season for the line. Right now, the send is on for the 99 back there, but the send to victory lane about to go underway for Larson. Dominating effort for second in the championship. Larson comes across and takes the win in France.
Amazing drive for Larson, checking in with Patrick Herger, who's going to cross the line in P2, coming through the Ford chicane, but I want to stay glued into this battle with Olivier Legrand and Max Mazeneuve as they cross the line. P3 and P4 remains tight for the final steps of the podium. It was up until the last couple of laps that the podium was locked in. Steve Ward had that lock in key, but Olivier Legrand kept it slow and steady, and he is going to not win the race, but come out in P3.
Able to withstand the pressure late, all while Ward withstands his own pressures to keep himself at the top 5 with still another % left in the virtual energy of the line. Decent day. And somehow he already teleported to pit lane. I don't know how he managed that.
Wondering the same thing. Normally you have to stop the car, but not in this case. As Alex Bacon comes back in P8, Stéphane de la Fontaine will bring it home in P9, JP Ravel in P10. Carl Maurer in P11, Guilherme Fonseca in P12, Jared Bergen, Redacted Grim in 13th, Andre Moro in 14th, Zach Wolf in 15th, Pedro Saw in 16th, having a little excursion with the barrier with Jean Beneke in 17th. And David Pittman rounds out the 18 finishers here at the Circuit de la Sarthe.
So Pittman will be the last one across the line, but Larson was the first one to get a chance to celebrate as things just about secure. Pittman at this point no longer able to take up any air spots. I can tell you this though, a dominating day for the Ferrari in the workshop to take home the victory here. Sagar getting it done here at the front, Sagar should say.
Yeah, it was a good run for Christopher Larson, Patrick Herger, and Olivier Legrand, the 1, 2, 3 here tonight at the Circuit de Le Mans. And now Max Mazeneuve with P4, Steve Ward in 5th, Cyril Fortin, Daniel Simone, Alex Bacon, Stéphane de la Fontaine, and JP Ravel round out the top 10.
Going back even more, Carl Maurer is back there in 11th, Fonseca in 12th. Bergen Redacted Grimmed in 13th with Moro, Wolf, Saw in the top 16. And that key finish shootout along with David Pittman, who will now cross the stripe here. DNFs aplenty. Dismo and Philippe Mason are a part of that list. Rounded out your top 20. Remember, we had 22 take the green flag overall. The other 2 were Barrett having issues, and we also had, at one point, Merrill Easy having some issues today. So we have a couple different drivers here tonight standing on by for our post-race discussions here. First and second taking the opportunity to stop on by for our post-race coverage here on V-Speed. In the end, it was Larson who put himself in a victory lane and gets the job done at the head of the field. Christopher Larson, how does it feel to get second, unofficially yours, with another win on the dot?
Man, yeah, the race went perfect, so I can't really ask for much more, to be honest.
So let's talk about the car. What made it so fast?
A lot of work, really. But also, this was really the second race on the season where I could full push the whole time. So, Spa last week and Le Mans this week, just building off each other and actually being able to push does a lot for a car.
So obviously, we mentioned unofficially second in the championship, looked to be secure just about coming into tonight. That in mind, that gets you into the prize pool and gets yourself a trophy. What's the approach to try and counter that to improve upon it even more for next season?
I think the big thing is just don't DNF at Monza. But no, in all seriousness, take the momentum from these last 2 rounds and, keep building on it. The car has pace. I've found something special with it. So I think we can take something to Chamberlain next season.
Anyone who want to give a shout out to here tonight?
Man, just everyone at Simu Nation, everyone in that booth, Max, Chamberlain, everyone all season that I got to race with. It's been fun. Let's do it again in a few months.
On that note, congratulations on the win tonight, Christopher. You get it done here in France.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.
Christopher Larson gets the victory here today as Patrick Herger coming away second, getting the first chance to talk with him. He is with Sauger.
Patrick Herger.
Yes.
That was a
Hi, guys.
tremendous drive tonight and a hard-fought battle with Steve Ward. Talk to us about how you're feeling after the race.
Yeah, really happy. I mean, I waited for the last race to come and talk with you guys. Really happy about the podium. It was a tough fight with Steve Ward. Both in McLarens, we both had a good top speed. Sadly, he didn't put enough fuel, so he had to repeat there at the end. But yeah, it was a really good race from his part also.
Absolutely. It was beautiful. Watch the ballet of McLarens walk through the Circuit de la Sarthe for pretty much the entire race before the pit stop cycle and after the pit stop cycle. Unfortunately, like you said, Steve Ward ran out of fuel there, or virtual energy, and had to come back into the lane. You have cheers for yourself in the YouTube chat. Anybody you'd like to shout out or anybody you'd like to thank on the podium today?
Well, thanks to Simu Nation for organizing this championship. It was really fun. I hope we're going to get some more. I heard that we might have another championship coming up in the fall, so can't wait for that championship. Thanks to my sim racing team also, TGM Racing, and my family and everyone around me.
Thank you so much for joining us here in the V-Speed broadcast booth. Patrick Herger, have a great night, and as always, make sure you stay safe out there.
Thank you, guys.
That is Patrick Herger coming away second spot tonight. Sauger, on that note, I'll give you the floor. Your final thoughts of being a part of this series this season and seeing how things went tonight to finish up this campaign.
I think things couldn't have gone any better for the inaugural championship for the Simu Nation team. This was a mountain to climb. Unforeseen circumstances arose. Challenges presented themselves. Drivers were challenged and pushed to their absolute limits throughout this championship. But a leader, a winner, was crowned with the LMGT3 Masters, brought to you by Simu Nation. It was an exciting championship from the word go to the last checker flag here at the Circuit de la Sarthe. I was thoroughly entertained, race after race, week after week. Nowhere else I'd rather be on my Tuesday evenings than with the Simu Nation team, and on the weeks that we didn't run, I always wondered, why can't we just run every week to rapidize these leagues and championships? But it would take some of the thrill and anticipation out of the championship at the same time. So I think the format will have to remain the same as we go finish up the Porsche Cup this Thursday.
And on that note, it's time to say goodbye for tonight's coverage of Simu Nation and the LMGT3 Masters powered by NOX Gaming for this season. Again, we thank you for tuning in throughout this campaign to watch along with the racing action. We'd like to thank as well Mike Noss as well as Jackson Lembros, who have been a part of the coverage of the commentary booth throughout parts of the season. And of course, Sagar Bakshi has been your producer and tonight your co-announcer for the entire campaign. On that note, it's time to say goodbye. I'm Justin Prince saying so long. Enjoy the rest of your evening. You've been watching VSP's coverage of Simu Nation, brought to you by NOX Gaming and Wolf Sim Racing. Good night from France.